I'm glad you guys got to come talk to me today about universities.
Yes. I'm Sudan from year 12.
I'm Janook from year 12 as well.
And you know me.
Yes, we have some few questions that we just want to ask because we're at the, the peak, not the peak, but
you're not
we're
at the
stage,
peak.
we're at the first step of applying to our universities. So yeah.
We were just wondering when we actually start this application process.
I mean, you guys are right. You're not at the peak, but you're at the kind of starting line now for when it starts to get quite serious in terms of making decisions and putting your applications together. We don't start any earlier because of the IB being so intensive, and it's so important that when you come into year 12, you embed yourself committedly into the IB diploma program. But now that you've done that, it starts to become your secondary goal to make sure that you make the right choices for university. So you'll begin this term having your initial meetings with me as your university counsellor. We'll talk about where you see yourself going. You can ask any questions you want, and we'll put together a plan for you to do the research. In term 3, we really concentrate on getting your writing started, so the personal statement for the UK, starting to draft essays if you're applying to the US, making further decisions, and by the time you leave at the end of year 12, you should have a working list of universities or colleges you want to apply to, and you should have some of your writing drafted. When you come back in year 13, it's a pretty quick turnaround between arriving and applying, particularly if you're applying to Oxford or Cambridge or early decision to the US, which is why we start at the end of year 12 to make sure that you're not in a position that you're unprepared to make those early applications. All students then should be done with their application process for our internal deadline by Christmas holidays. And if you think about the time frame then between arriving back in September and going Christmas holidays in December, you can see why we start now.
So will all the paperwork be helped by the teachers here?
Yeah, absolutely. So the teachers write testimonials for you, which is, we talk so often about how important it is to be really engaged in your classes and talking in your classes and not being passive. Because when the teachers write their testimonials, that's the meat for your reference. That's what I use to show the admissions committee who you are as people, as individuals, and that is really an important component of having a successful application.
Yeah. So we know that IB is quite rigorous and challenging. Do universities value IB?
Yeah, I mean, and I think you could probably come up with some of the reasons, couldn't you?
Yes.
Why do you think that IB is well respected? What can you do? What does it force you to
depth,
do?
And breadth.
Breadth,
yeah. So you have depth of knowledge in subject areas. You've got breadth. We're talking about you wanting to study engineering.
Yeah.
Most engineers are not going to be able to, have the experience of writing long papers in their subject areas in English coming out of Korea. So, it forces you to really push yourself. And universities like to know that the students coming to them have the skills already in place to be successful at that level of academic challenge. And IB students, historically and definitively through studies have shown that there's a really strong correlation between success at the IB and success in university education. So they know that, and that's why they respect it.
So Miss, about the IB, although we take the English courses, do we still have to take those English tests such as TOEFL or the IELTS?
We do recommend that you take them simply because if a single college or university requires them, you want to have them.
Yes. You
don't want to be in a position when it gets to year 13 and you're making your application where you realize that Cambridge University insists on you having IELTS and you don't have them. You don't want to find out that your visa is dependent on a score for a particular country. So our advice is get it done early, put it in your back pocket and forget about it until you need it. Those students who are successful at our school, at your level, will have no trouble getting the necessary requirements on IELTS. It's not something to be feared. It's just something to be done and done with.
So what do students need to prepare for US universities? Because I know they're different, like with the UK and the US.
The UK is much more straightforward in many ways. use the scores you already have if you've taken GCSEs. If not, you use your predicted score for IB. And then obviously you write your incredibly strong personal statement, and we provide you a reference. Fairly compact, straightforward. In the US, it's not as straightforward. You have to complete Common App essays. You need to complete supplemental essays. So there's a pretty significant writing requirement. That takes early preparation. So that writing should be happening in the course of this year, towards the end of the year when the questions have come out, over the summer, kind of editing, and then finalizing those edits in the first term of year 13. You have to prepare SAT or ACT, which I know is a lot on top of the IB curriculum. We highly, highly recommend that you use your long holidays to do it. So you use Easter, summer,
winter.
If you hadn't used winter already, it's too late for you now. But eventually,
Yes.
For the year behind you, they would use that winter holiday to try and do it on top of your IB. And
Yes.
it's really too much to do at school. If I were to take 3 or 4 hours away from you every week and say that's that SAT prep time, your academics would suffer. And universities, you need to be performing academically. So that's why we do it, so that we do it. Long holidays, prepare.
So what about universities outside, not like outside UK and US?
Well, we'll support any application a student wants to make. Our most common jurisdiction outside of the UK and the US, Hong Kong and Singapore. We have some students who've applied to Canada, and we have one student applying to New Zealand. Hong Kong universities have very similar application structures to the UK. Only very slight modifications are necessary, and we've been really successful, like I've said, getting kids in and getting kids scholarships to Hong Kong University and HKUST. The NUS application, National University of Singapore, again, fairly similar, doesn't require very much on the part of the student. It's very, very much based on your predicted scores and any other evidence of academic success that you can provide them. So in that way, may be more similar to a Korean university application.
So when will the prediction grades be out?
Predicted grades come out in June of your year 12 year.
So this year?
This year. You have an opportunity for changes, but that's really dependent on how much work you do over the summer and how easily demonstrated that work is. So let's say you were to go away to French immersion, yes, and you spent the whole summer in France and you came back and you're nearly fluent. And you could very easily demonstrate that to your French teacher. Well then, if you were predicted a 5 before and now you're at a clear 7, they would have the opportunity to change that score. But it's a prediction, which means that they're really determining where you are going to be in a year's time. So it's aspirational and realistic.
Outlook.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not how you're performing now or how you're performing at the end of year 12. It's an idea of, okay, based on their progress, based on their profile, based on what I know of them now, where are they going to be when they get to that exam in May of year 13. So there shouldn't be a lot of movement, but there could be a circumstance where there's significant movement based on significant work.